Welcome to the next episode of Expert Showcase. Today on the show, we have an epic guest for you, Shawn Miller, and he's going to be talking to you and showing you all about the new party principle for social networking success. Hey, Shawn, how you doing today?
Hey Chris, I'm great, man. Hey everybody.
Yeah, man, I am so. This is going to be an epic show. I am so honored to have you on. I've known this guy for a while now. You're going to learn a ton from him. I love I love one of the things he says. He's going to tell you about, his. Yeah, as you can probably see that social cloud suite in the back. I kind of love it when we talked about it. He's like, I love the software so much, I bought the company. And anytime somebody goes, I love something so much, I bought the company, you got to listen to them. And the interesting part is every time you hear that from somebody, they've gone through some struggle or they've gone through some change in their life, as we like to call it, the hero's journey. Shawn, give our audience a quick overview of your own hero's journey.
Sure. Well, and I would tie that in, Chris, to a little bit of social media story for that, right? So 10 years ago now, I quit my job. I had a great job with Caterpillar, but I was flying all the time. My wife wanted me home. I quit my job, and we bought a gym. We bought a weightlifting gym. And coming from Caterpillar, I was accustomed to billion-dollar marketing budgets, and I was rapidly branding our tiny little business right into oblivion. and about that same time, this idea of social networking and social media was beginning to really bubble up, right, and become popular. And a friend, Joe Stankowski, introduced me to a flip cam and YouTube, and how you could do videos to promote our business, our gym, and connect with our audience out in the world in a new way, right, with the people's media and video. And we started doing this 9 years ago or so now, and we've been doing it ever since. And it's just an entirely organic use for me of an actual business guy, organically using social media to connect with people, grow business, make new friends, make opportunities, and it's just evolved in an incredible way. But it all came from my flip cam, which doesn't exist, and my BlackBerry, which doesn't exist. To where we are today, right, with a billion people a day on Facebook. So it's been a raucous ride, and 10 years of success with that business. We just had our biggest year ever, and now we're exceeding that this year. So it's working well for that business and others too, Chris. So excited to share, not really a guru's perspective, but an actual business guy's perspective.
Yeah, and that's so great. And it's, I'm laughing here because I grew up in Lehigh Valley, so I'm more of a Mack truck guy than a Caterpillar guy. But that's besides the point. But the other thing I find interesting is, you're not the first person to come from the fitness world and be an incredible, I'll say, social media guy, an incredible marketer. In fact, I don't know if you know Charlie McDermott. The name might ring a bell. His kid's on ABC The Middle, and I happen to, I'm friends with him, and it was interesting to, when I first met him and he started talking about GKIC and all that type of marketing. But then his philosophy was the same. It's like, dude, just get started on a flip cam and, just get started. So, and he was also, part of the reason I bring it up is because for those of you who don't know, he started off, I'll say, it's very similar to you, Shawn, which is owning a gym. He built it when he was still in Westchester University, and has now made the same transition. So the reason I bring all that up is because whatever business you're in at this point, if you come across this episode of Expert Showcase, this episode applies to you regardless of what business you're in. So just because Shawn and I started talking about fitness, just because we're talking about flip cams and all the other stuff, whether it's in Shawn's hero's journey or whether it's what we're going to talk about in the expert focus segment about that party principle, you need to stick around and watch because this episode is for you. So Shawn, let's go back to the beginning and let's talk about the beginning for a while. I mean, you were at Caterpillar. You said your wife wanted you home off the road. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this who are going through something similar, and I think what they'd love to understand is how did you make the decision to go from that corporate job to doing something else. Can you take us through that a little bit?
Sure. I can tell you very specifically. A friend of mine named Steve, and Steve had bought a business. And I frankly, it had never, the light went, it had never occurred to me that you could acquire an ongoing business. I just never occurred to me, right? You could have a job or you could start a business, but to just buy one, who knew, right? But
Right.
he found one, and it worked great for him. He was able to make an investment, take over that, add his insights and energy to it, and it went really, really well for him. And we were involved in athletics and exercise, and my wife was a fitness trainer and we were a coach, and we've always been in that way, and we loved being in the gym. And I had this idea, Chris, that, well, it was going to be like Cheers, right? I was going to buy this gym, and I was going to be there, and I was going to sit there all day long, and and hand out towels and sell drinks and know everybody by name. So we bought this place, and off we go. But I tell you what, a lesson I learned from that transition that I like to share with people, and not to be negative, but it's real. As part of a successful organization, I believe that I vastly overrated my ability as an entrepreneur. I think my own opinion of my business savvy as would be as a business owner or entrepreneur was really jaded by having been actually a cog in a wheel of a really successful team. And so being, that transition from, job and team member to being the decision maker and the all, the be all end all of making rain and making the place operate and everything in between was a rough one, man. It was really, really difficult. But we kept at it and we got better. And that flip cam was one of the things that we did that helped us
Yeah.
get better and effectively connect with people in a way that we hadn't been able to do before.
Yeah, and I love what you talk about. I think we'll talk about more of that, maybe either the turning point or the aftermath, just about the fact of going from being a cog in a wheel to being, being the be all end all. Because I think it scares some people, and I think also some people don't take it into account. The interesting part, though, is that one of the things I find interesting is that you were successful at Caterpillar. And in fact, let me not take this for granted. I'm guessing you were. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions. You were successful at Caterpillar, right?
Hmm.
Okay, and you kind of had a lifestyle that you had a lifestyle that at least supported you and your wife financially, at least at a decent level. I'm not saying you were uber wealthy, but you at least you didn't want for anything. You weren't hurting for money, right?
No, we were doing all right.
So most people would think, well, that's what's going to make somebody happy. That's what's going to make the wife happy. We're successful. We've got, um, I've got a good job with a good stable company, and this should all be happy and successful. When your wife came to you and said she wanted you home more, do you remember either the conversation you had or how you reacted when this change was suggested, or was it a single moment, or
Yeah.
was it over a time?
I think it was over time, and I think there was two things. If you look at it, you he who self reflects the best wins, right? And
Yes.
there were two things, and one thing was we actually live in the house my wife grew up in. We're
Wow.
entrenched in the community and her family, and the next move in that corporate hierarchy was a move. So for me to make another elevation, I would have had to move to Houston, Texas. And in Houston's all right, but that was not high on my family's agenda. So we knew that my career had kind of capped if I was not willing to do that. And but the funny irony of that is in the job that I had, in the job I would have had there, I flew almost every day. I was almost never home. And when you do that, people don't really understand the grind of that travel and the long days that we would have, and then entertaining I was in dealer development work, so
Okay.
we would entertain dealers then in the evening and that sort of thing. It was long days. So
Yeah.
the real problem at home, Chris, is when I get home, I was cooked. I'd come home on Friday night and sleep until Monday morning when I had to go back, and that's when she said, "Hey, buddy,
Yeah.
when you're here, you got to be here." Right? And
Yeah.
that's still true today, right? When we're home and with our family, we need to be present with our family, and we've got to have good harmony there. And that's a big challenge for all men. But you've got to be home and present when you're home.
Yeah, it's so right, and it's kind of interesting you bring up the travel because I worked in corporate America, and I for a time loved the travel and being a speaker. It's something that one of my goals is to be on stage 365 days straight, literally one day every 365 straight days somewhere in the country. So I'm ramping up for that huge travel schedule. But the fact of the matter is after a while, no matter how much you love it, it does get to be a grind, and it does get to be, you got to get to the point where you say, okay, this is, any road warrior will tell you that, right? And then it's not just your 8 hours that you're there, but it's the entire day, like you said, at night. Now the interesting part though is, and I think we'll talk about this more later, I think it kind of predisposed you to the rigors and understanding what it was going to be like to run your own company and to succeed, at least at the beginning, especially from a brick and mortar business, the gymnasium, because whether it's brick and mortar or even what we do here, it's not 9 to 5. I mean, for
Yeah.
people who get into this, what we do, and think it's going to be, hey, we're just gonna, make it 9 to 5. I mean, Social Cloud Suite can make it easier, but it's still not a snap
Takes the
your.
pressure off a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
The,
still
the
not a nine to.
grind working hard in the grind is not hard for me. That comes natural to me very easily. Um, the trick for me, it's one of the things you see, in social media and things today. You see a lot of this rise and grind stuff, right? And that's a big hashtag, rise and grind. The grind comes natural for me. So in my case, rise and shine is what I'm looking for. The grind comes all on its own. So it's the rise and shine part where I have to make sure my mindset is right.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great place for us to go and dig a little deeper into the turning point. And you were there, you were successful. It came to a point where things just weren't things just weren't working anymore at home. So you went and you did what was right. You got into something else that would keep you home. And I think really we have two turning points here. One is the turning point from when you did that into starting your business, and the second one is when you overbranded your business, as you were saying, and it was difficult. So let's split them up here, and we'll dive into just on the surface of both of them. The turning point. Let's finish up the turning point on the home life and when you decided to buy the business. Now I know you said your wife was also a fitness trainer and in athletics. So did that make the decision to buy a gym easier or more difficult?
No, that made it, and that may have been if somebody's watching this and they're thinking about buying a business, that may have been the worst part of that decision was to take a hobby and turn it into a business. I have ruined two hobbies in my life by turning them into a business. I don't recommend that, and I will not do it again. Uh, but I can tell you that when it becomes 24/7, 365, it's not as fun anymore. That's when it's a hobby, right? And you realize that as you're there running the business and you're watching everybody else have fun doing what used to be your hobby, you can almost turn on you, right? It can almost turn on you. You have to be careful to maintain enthusiasm for what you eventually probably lose if you turn that hobby into a business. I did that with the golf business when I was in my 20s. I did the same thing. But the other thing, I want to be completely transparent, and Amy was never Amy was clear that another alternative would be better for her, and Amy was clear that going to Houston would be okay, but not something that she wanted to do. The real trigger for me the actual trigger, it was the actual trigger for a lot of people when they leave a company. I got a bad boss. And I
Yeah.
didn't leave that company, and I didn't leave those coworkers the minute I got that boss, I began to plan my exit strategy, and I began to squirrel away money and try to find a way to make a graceful exit out of that company. And that's the number one. So those of you that have employees, listen up. It's true. The number one reason that good people leave companies is because they get a bad boss. And it's not because they don't fit there or they don't like it there. It's just that burden becomes too great. And that was the trigger for me.
Yeah, and for those of you bosses out there, remember this: just because you're trying to hide it, everybody knows. There's an old saying that CEOs never want to let their people give them performance reviews because they don't want to know their flaws, and it's like they know already. I know I've been a good boss, and I'm quite sure I've been a bad boss at some
Mm-hmm.
points in different companies. And it's no matter what I did, I'm quite sure that people knew it. I mean, it wasn't anything on purpose, but anyway. But I think that's epic gold. I mean, that right there really is just the epic gold for the people who own businesses is be a better boss, and the other piece there that I love was turning a hobby into a business. And a lot of people think it's going to be great, but it's kind of like when you're forced to do something. I think there's a difference. I think, in my opinion, if a hobby is something you wake up thinking about every single day and doing every single day, and if you don't do it for a day or two, you're really, I'll say, jonesing to do it. It might be a good thing, in my opinion. It might be a good thing to turn into a business because maybe it is really what you're looking at doing. Like, as an example, people, if you're on Periscope or Blab every day, think about contacting us and becoming a show host because obviously you love to do this stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's that line you're 100% right there, Shawn. There's that line that you draw that when you cross over it, it becomes drudgery. It's kind of like the last quick point I want to make. It's kind of like when people look at professional athletes and go, "How can you retire?" You're just playing a game. It's like, yeah, it turned at some point into a really just drudgery. It's like,
You
geez,
can.
I have to do this again today. So
You
let's
can.
look. Go ahead.
Well, you can, and I think, and obviously, like everything, that's a manner of managing mindset, right? And that's very, very important, managing mindset and maintaining that. I think that the thing that you need to recognize, like, when I turned my passion for playing golf into being the golf business, I didn't get to play golf anymore when everybody else was, right?
Yeah.
That's just the reality. And the same thing true, if you're running the gym, you don't get to work out, and everybody else is having fun working out, you're running the gym. So you just need to recognize that enthusiast passion is probably going to be replaced by different activities, and you need to be prepared to manage that mindset of that transition. And
Yeah.
running any business is not easy, right? And so it's very important that you feel passionate about the problem that you solve, and you're clear about the problem that you solve with your business, and you stay, and you remain passionate about that. Just recognize that I think a lot of people naively enter into business that because they like it as a hobbyist, and they're disappointed, as I was, to discover that, well, I don't get to do that anymore.
Yeah. Because goodness knows, Shawn, the worst thing that can happen is when you're bench pressing 450 and somebody comes over and needs a towel or didn't get their paycheck right. Not a good situation to be in. It's not like it's not like you say, "Wait a minute, wait till I'm done with my next rep." It's like
Yeah,
and they kind of have a little leverage over you when you're
there's
underneath.
always yeah, there's always something to be cleaned or fixed or tweaked, or it never ends. It never ends.
Yeah, exactly. So let's look at your business a little bit from when you said you were over branding, because I think that really starts to get us into the aftermath. So there was a turning point in the branding and the marketing, I think, of your health club and your fitness center that got you to start to make a change and do things differently, right?
Sure. Well, and I'll mention, across my office from me is a whole rack of Dan Kennedy books, and you mentioned, Charlie and GKIC earlier, and I can tell you that, what happened to me is what happens to a lot of small business people, and Dan Kennedy was one of the triggers for me in figuring it out, and but that you got all of these people that are coming to you in the guise of consultative selling. So they're coming to you as consultants, as a business owner or manager, and the reality is they are media salespeople, right? And that's what, and they're trained to come with a fine consultative hat. But I assure you that if they work for the radio station, that the media that your business should be advertising in is absolutely going to be radio, right? Regardless of whether or not that makes any sense for you. And that's the reality. So as you're a new business owner and you want to be nice to people, and especially if you're in a community like we are with a physical business, gosh, you don't want to be rude to any of these people. You know, they might be prospects or they might talk to someone. So you entertain all these folks and they consult you into a lot of bad spots. And they can consult you into spending a whole lot of money branding, getting your name out there, doing all these, awareness campaigns that don't actually drive action. And what we learned, of course, from Dan Kennedy and JKIC was the marketing triangle, right? We learned media, message, market match. And what I had to learn about that fitness business, and it's a unique business, Chris. It's a hardcore weightlifting gym.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got a little bit going on. It's a hardcore weightlifting gym, and our primary ideal avatar is a young dude. And what we sell those young dudes is confidence. And as much as the radio or the newspaper or that, they might touch those people sometimes, they do not have the ability to put that triangle on that young dude in my community. They're not targeted enough with their media to match my message to my market. And so that activity of branding was literally blowing up our profitability ineffectively, and we had to make changes.
Yeah, and you're so right, and it's so interesting because I mean, being in the business I'm in, of course, my main thrust for people is you should be out there on video because video is a very powerful medium. But whenever I work with a client, the first thing we do is go through that and we figure out what really is the right media for you. Because if you're going to come to me and your ideal client is 65 years old and listens to NPR, now there's a good chance we're not a good fit for you, and we would steer you in the direction of trying to get ads on radio and that sort of thing, because you've got to go where your clientele is, like you said, media, message, and market.
Mm-hmm.
So you did what most business owners do, which is throw a lot of money, or at least those that have the ability to throw a lot of money at all the advertising and branding and getting your name out there. And it kind of sounds like it kind of fell flat a little bit, or maybe a lot. I mean, I don't want to diminish it, but
Well, this was happening at the same time that the economy was going into a terrible slide, right? And we had a rough time in the late 08,
yeah.
09, right? That was tough. And so we had to really learn how to focus. We had to really learn how to run the business in a very effective way, and then how to do our marketing in such a way that we very specifically dialed in that triangle, that we knew that avatar, we spoke to that avatar. And one of the things that I learned in video, and this is a fantastic tip, and this is actual actor training, is I learned to communicate specifically to one person. I learned to talk to you, and I would think about you and visualize you, and through the camera I will speak to you, right? And when I did that, and I knew the dude, there was a dude, and he has a name. His name is Gavin. He was a member. He was my ideal avatar. And I would go on video and I would speak to Gavin about what I knew would motivate him. And in other people that looked like him, right, would see that and have this, oh, God, he's talking to me, right? They have that moment. So that in actor training, they talk about speak to one to communicate with many. Right. So, but you have to speak. You want to speak directly and specifically to one in a very specific emotional basis. And what will happen is there are many people that are in a similar place, And when they see that, it will communicate to them in a very powerful emotional way. And you can convey that effectively in video and very uniquely in video. And I think, obviously in branding, you stick our logo on stuff, or we put our logo out in the community. That's, I mean, really, throw money in the air, whatever, right? But when I can deliver, especially with social media now, right? And we can talk about this if you want to, but I can deliver that message with a very high probability to that audience, and I can use video to do it in a way that I can't really replicate in any other way. I can do it every day. I can do it twice a day, right? And I can deliver it literally right into their hands, right? I can deliver it right into their freaking hands.
Yep, exactly.
And I can do it for free. It's extraordinary, right? This is unfathomable to me, right? I have a 4K video right here in my hand, right?
Yeah.
And I can deliver it for free right into your little hand. And it's just a remarkable thing, man. It's a true revolution in human communication and a complete game changer for business.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of leads us into the aftermath. We've been talking about it a little bit, but I think we want to get, a whole lot deeper before we get into the expert focus segment. So for those of you watching, you got to stick around, because we're going to be, Shawn's definitely going to be telling you about, the new party principle on how you get social media success. You got to be here. And it's kind of, it's interesting, because I think it shows an arc that a lot of people go through. They listen to a lot of pundits, and like you had said, they listen to a lot of pundits who are in it for themselves before they find out what really resonates with their avatar and with their ideal client. So let me ask you that. Once you started, instead of going out and as they say, net fishing versus spear fishing, once you started to spear fish, and once you had Gavin as that avatar, and once you were able to talk directly to Gavin, how'd that change your business?
It made it made a consistent flow of leads. But the remarkable thing is, by the use of video and the use of video in the space, it was the staff noticed, I noticed, you could feel people would walk in the door of it's a pretty intimidating place, Craig. I mean, this is Flex Fitness Center. It's world famous. This is an intimidating place. There are world champions abound, right? It's not. This isn't Planet Fitness, okay? And so when people walk in, they're a little bit intimidated usually, and I'm not saying rightly so. They're just I'll just let that be. But they'll walk in, but what you could see was they would relax. Their respiration would relax. Their comfort zone would, because they recognized the space. They'd been there before, right? It'd been right in their hand. That I've been here before. Oh, I've seen. I know you. You're the guy on the video, right? Or I've seen him or her. They're on videos, right? And I've been here before. And you'd see. Some things would happen is, when you come in a gym, you go on a tour, right? I don't know why that is, but that's what it is. That's what happens. So people would come in and we'd say, would you like to come tour this? And they're like, no, I'm good. I've seen it. I'm completely confident, based on what I've seen online, that this is the culture that I want to be in. Else I would not be here, right? Yeah. And what the reality is that people that would have been afraid when they walked in, they didn't even come in, because they knew what happened in there, right? And the folks that wanted to be there, that made sense for them, they yep, this is congruent. Everything is this is congruent. You're the same guy. You're authentic. You're real. Yep, I saw that guy. Everything. I'm good. Yeah. Sign me up. Right?
Well, and
we were able to do that before they ever walked in the door.
Yeah, and that becomes the real key. It's funny, because back in the day, I grew up around and worked out same place as a couple of professional wrestlers. So I mean, it's something that I kind of get how intimidating that environment can be, and you have to it's something that it will attract who it attracts, and it will attract your right clientele. And fact of the matter is whether you own a gym, or whether you own a brick and mortar store, or whether whether you're doing things on the internet, you too can attract those ideal clients who are just going to say, you're congruent, I like you, I want to be around you, I want you here, I'm good. And for people, I mean, it's, we'll talk about social media in a little bit. That's really the key of social media, and whether it's video or other pieces of social media, to get your ideal client to recognize themselves, and like you said, get recognize themselves when you're talking and be attracted to being
And
around you and in your business.
it's the same. It's a little bit of movie star, right? It's a little bit of movie star because people think they know you, right?
Yeah,
I've seen you. I heard you. I've seen you in different emotional states. Right? And I mean, they know you, right? I mean, and in their mind, they don't know the difference, right? Your mind cannot tell the difference between if that was your face or a camera. If that's your nose or a camera, your mind doesn't really know the difference. Right? It's just you're seeing me, feeling me, hearing me, and they just resonated, right? Or they didn't, and that's cool, right? If they don't resonate, don't come here. That's cool, right?
yeah,
And that's, if you want to talk about tips in this process. The other thing that once we understood our avatar, we also understood who was not our avatar, and we no longer welcomed them, right? And we didn't say go away, but we no longer welcomed them, and so we used to waste, frankly, a good deal of their time and our time with people who were not good fits for our culture, but we wanted their money, right?
yeah,
And because we needed their money, right? But they weren't a good fit. And when we actually got more efficient, more effective, and dialed in who that clientele was and what they wanted and who they weren't, and that we got much more efficient and we got much more profitable because we knew who we wanted and who we did not. And those that we did not, they never came in, they never joined. We didn't convince them to join, right? And then they weren't unhappy, right? So the only people that come in now, almost exclusively, are people that fit, and they're happy when they join, and the whole thing goes well. And you know, but these are you mentioned this earlier, and it's important, and I'll just take it if I can. These are universal principles, right? These are universal principles. It's true of every business, right? And every market and every business and every town. It's no different in Knoxville or Dallas or Sacramento, right? These are human things. So when I discovered this and became good at this, and at Caterpillar I had been a trainer. That's why I was out dealing with dealers all the time. I was training them in effectiveness, and frankly, I got bored. That vision I had of working in the gym, I got bored. And so I'm learning about business in a new way that I didn't know before. I now have an empathy for business owners that I didn't have before, right? I didn't understand before, and I'm learning all of this effectiveness, in how to do these things and get my company profitable. And I'm a trained trainer, right? And I'm just going nuts. So I started to train other companies. Started to train other businesses, and that's from that grew a consulting company, and from that grew other opportunities and things like the College Suite that you mentioned. Now that's a little acquisition that we made and brought into our consulting company. So it's just grown and grown from there. But that's the journey, right? And you talk about the job. The hero's journey is not complete until the hero returns from whence he came and gets somebody and brings them out, right, and shows them the way out, right?
yeah,
And for me, I had to go and tell other people, how to do these things that I had figured out how to do. I could not help myself, and that was that's the fulfillment of the journey, right? Is when it's not just that you escape from the village, right, and you beat the evil knight and you escape. That's cool, but until you go back to the village and grab a hand of somebody else and show, look, I beat the knight. I got this. Don't worry. Let me show you the way around the dark night. It's cool. We got this. And until you do that, the hero's journey is not complete.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's a great place to to lead the hero's journey on, and to kind of wrap up this piece of the show, folks. You've been watching an epic guy, Shawn Miller, who's had a very interesting journey from being in corporate America with Caterpillar to buying a fitness center, turning that into a very successful fitness center with a few bumps along the way, and now helping people realize that social media, at least one piece of his consulting business, helping people realize that there's this new party principle of social media that's going to lead to your success. So stick around. We'll be right back, and we're going to dive much more into the new party principle for social networking success. Give us about 30 seconds, and we'll be right back. Are you a coach, an author, or a speaker who wants your very own web TV show just like Expert Showcase, only with all your branding around it? Then what you want to do is head on over to VideoContent.Agency, go up to the Work With Us tab, send us your information, let's start a conversation, let's see if we can develop a program around you and your message. And until we see you there, make it an epic day. And we're back. We've got our epic guest today, Shawn Miller. Shawn, incredible hero's journey. I love it how you were successful in corporate America, decided to be the great family man that you are, and realized that happy wife means a happy life. You didn't say that, I did, coming from somebody who's divorced. I kind of speak from the other side of things, but what are you going to do? And then it turned into a great success, not only in the fitness world, and in the weightlifting world, but in other worlds as well. Now, especially in this whole thing about social media and this new party principle for social networking success. So, give us a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. What is this whole new party principle for social network success?
Sure, Chris. So, what we're talking about here is the journey as a business owner, and being a business owner at the time of the greatest revolution in human communication, right? All advancements in communication until social media, or what I call the people's media, have been more efficiency in one message to many people, right? One message to many people, stone tablets, radio, newspapers, one message, many people. But with social networking, we have the ability of millions of people all over the globe to talk to millions of people in real time, right? And when you get millions of people talking to millions of people in real time and on their terms, not in the control of any entity or marketing or government or anything else, you get the people's media. And when a bunch of people get together, frankly, you get a party. So we need to understand that this is not advertising space. This is a party going on with a bunch of people talking to a bunch of people, and you can participate, and business can come from that if you know how to do that well. But a lot of people don't know how to do that well. So we're going to talk about how we walk through that process so that you are a cool dude that really connects with people in a powerful way and can get them to move to money if that's appropriate. But you do it in a way that's not offensive and instead is effective and builds relationships in a very authentic way.
Boy, and I can't wait to hear all about this. I'm always up for a good party, and I love it. I love this topic, and you're right, it is what makes today's world so great. Specifically, we're going to talk about today how to present yourself on social networks. We're going to talk about how to connect with the communities of people who are actually interested in the problem you solve, and then how to move those people into real relationships and create and grow your business. So, Shawn, let's dive into each one of them. Let's first start off with how to present yourself on social networks. What are we talking about here?
Well, what's really important, we got to understand this is the people's media, and this is what the people doing what the people want, right? So one of the things that's really funny, and you're going to say, well, that's incredibly shallow. And I'm going to, well, it's people. Okay. So the number one reason that somebody follows you back on Twitter, right? Everyone, why does people follow me or don't follow? The number one reason people follow you back on Twitter is because in your profile picture you have a nice smile. Number one reason, really, actual data. The number one reason somebody follows you because in your profile picture you have a nice smile. So what that means is several things. Number one, that means if you're hiding behind a logo, you're just out of the game, man. You're around square peg and round hole on social media hiding behind your logo. That doesn't work. This is the people's media. It's not a billboard, right?
Yep.
And when you talk about, well, I'm on there, but I'm an expert. I'm an authority. I have all of the status. I have all this great things, and I've got this really cool free report and all this great stuff. Nobody gives a crap. That's not why they're there. They don't want your free stuff, right?
Yeah.
They're there for fun. They're there to engage. They're there kind of for water cooler talk, right? So how do you present yourself? Well, number one, it must be the real you, right? And even if you're green and you got big buggy eyes, it doesn't matter, right? The real authentic you with a big smiling face of your actual face, right? And actually connecting. It may not, your profile picture may not be your dog or your child or your car or your fish that you caught. You may not be in a group of people, so nobody knows which one is you. You can't have somebody's shoulder coming out of your ear because you cropped it out of the class reunion picture because you look nice that day, right? You need a good. It's critical, right, that you have a really nice profile picture. But then once you are there as you, your job at a party, right? This is a party. So your job at a party is to be helpful, funny, interesting, right? Engaging, like to talk. Have good energy. Be the kind of person that other people want to be around, right? If I walk into even a business networking event, right? I'm not walking around, even in a business network, I'm not walking around shoving cards and applications and opt-ins and coupons and downloads of my free crap stuff, right?
Yeah.
I'd be a complete jerk if I did that in a business networking event. But I can go into Facebook or Twitter, which isn't even a business space, and think I can act like that and think I can produce results, and you're wrong.
Yep. Well, and it's kind of interesting you bring up the profile picture. Two real quick examples. One, I mean, I go through rebranding every now and then, and at the event that we were at together, I had one of the attendees come up to me and say, "Chris, you look so much nicer in person than you do on the pictures we see." That was kind of my key, that my picture wasn't representing who I was. Now, a lot of times you as a viewer won't get that opportunity, but it's something that you can take it to ask people. The other thing I was going to bring up real quick is the fact that, and I know some women, I've talked to some women who specifically either hide their face or do something because they don't want to be objectified or they don't want to use their good looks to increase their business, and I get it and I understand. There was recently where I've seen somebody's profile picture where this woman is always hiding behind something, and I finally stumbled across she actually changed a picture somewhere and she's drop dead gorgeous. And it's like, look, I get it. You might not want to be objectified. That's not what I'm saying you should do. But let's face it, people are attracted to attractive people. That we are human beings, and that's whether it's a guy or a girl. People are attracted to attractive people. Now, if you don't feel you're attractive, still do what Shawn's telling you. Put your picture up because you will attract the people you're meant to attract. But anyway, so it's just kind of a recent example I wanted to bring up that I was kind of shocked that somebody would do that and kind of be completely hiding. And then basically had a shot done. It's like, wow, I don't get what you're hiding from. But anyway, now
And the good news is this is your profile.
right.
You get to show up how you want to show up,
Yep.
right? You're not, you talk about being objectified or judged, or you're in complete control, right? You get to show up exactly as you want to show up. And there's not a lot of, people don't think there's a lot of places in life. I guess the reality is my answer to that is totally different. I show up exactly how I want to show up. But when we think about that, this is complete control of this space, right? You are in complete control, and you just cannot hide in this space. And if you think, like I say, you think about what happens at a party. When I walk into a party, and somebody will have a group gathered around, right? And that group is smiling and they're laughing and they're talking and they're engaging I want to be a part of that, right? I want to see what's going on over there. Yeah. And you can attract a group of people really, really fast, right? And if somebody else is over leaning on the wall, moping and staring at their phone, I'm not going to go, hey, dude, yeah, what do you got? You got something to say? No, you're not putting out, anything that's attractive to people. And so this is an amazing opportunity to put out to people exactly what you want on your own terms, and attract them to you, in a very efficient, effective way. And you don't even have to leave your home to do it, man. So you,
Yeah.
what-
So
you
so
want to go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just going to say, as far as, we're going to get into connecting with the right people shortly here, but to kind of wrap up presenting yourself on social networks, other than the profile pic, is there one other piece of advice you could give our viewers today to say, look, here's, other than profile pic, here's something else you could do today to present yourself the right way on social networks?
Well, a couple of things. One thing that's really important, and it's actually down here, uh, but one thing that's there's you've got all of these networks, right? And one of the things that happens is what I call the circle follow. And I'll give you an example. I connected with somebody, that I wanted to connect with. I reached out and poked him on Twitter. And I'm big into Twitter, so I talk about that a lot. But I reached out, I poked him on Twitter. I wanted to connect with him. Um, he then liked my Facebook page, and within a few minutes sent me a direct message on LinkedIn. Right? So what did he do? He circle followed me, right? And what is he looking for? He's looking to see, what is my presence, and am I consistent, right? Am I consistent? Am I showing up in the right places? Am I showing up the right way? Am I consistently, am I who I said I was, right? And the most important aspect of this is going to be what others say about you. That's the most important thing, right? So am I also appearing in media, right? So the things, some of the tips there to go on, you've got to be, if you're going to be present on a network, be present on the network. Go deep, don't go wide, right? Go deep, don't go wide. If you're only on LinkedIn, cool with me. I'm completely cool with that, right? Then be on LinkedIn deep and do it well, right? But if you're going to be on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, then be consistent and do it well. But don't be on all of this and suck at all of them because you're not deeply engaged and connected there, right? Because
Yeah.
people are going to circle follow. And if they go check out your Instagram and you haven't posted anything in 9 months, it looks like you're out of business,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Or if that's your old job over there. Right on LinkedIn, I'm in my job, and on Facebook, I'm an entrepreneur, and on Twitter, I'm a direct sales guy,
Yeah.
right? Which I see that, and to me, when I see that, you're gone. You're incongruent, and I've just discovered you in like 9 seconds, right? And the jig is up in like 9 seconds that it takes me to do Google due diligence, and that's what everybody does. So you want to make sure that when they do their Google due diligence and they circle around these networks, that the real you is showing up, and the real you is showing up as a cool dude and not some dinkweed, right? I'm a cool dude, man. I'm real. I'm a cool dude, and it doesn't matter if I'm handsome or not. It doesn't matter if you're interested in my business or not. At that point, it just matters that I'm showing up effectively and powerfully and professionally and consistently.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny you bring up the whole showing up differently and everything. It's one of the reasons why, I've kept some of the stuff with VideoContent.Agency, Video Content Network, VCN TV, all the other stuff I'm doing. I kept it really, really stealth because I didn't want to give those different perceptions. And it was kind of funny because I got burnt by it because I was talking with somebody who I thought we were going to have one conversation. Turns out I think he was looking for something different and started Googling, and basically nothing is showing up. And I had to try to explain, but by that point it was too late. I had to try to explain why, look, I'm telling you about a project that is so stealth, I've purposely kept it off the internet, which you know how difficult that is nowadays.
Mm.
But anyway, so it looked, and I guess here's the point I'm trying to make. It looked like I was being incongruent at that point, because I didn't explain it first. Had I just referenced another project, funniest part is I referenced the wrong project. Had I referenced another project, he would have Googled it and found thousands of pages on it. So I love the fact that what you're saying here is be consistent. And I think being consistent and being congruent also really helps you connect with the right people, because once they've done that loop, the circle, and I've been involved in a lot of those where you just start following, then you start to, the people who do that, you start to figure out who the right people are. At least that's my guess. So how do you connect with the right people?
Well, that's the other thing that's just beautiful because the social network. If I'm at a party, uh, we don't walk around with like a big floating description above us, above our head, that says what business we're in and kind of what we're into, right? We don't have that on a party, but on social network I do, right? So there's my profile picture, and right under that is a little mini description of exactly what I'm into, right? And you can look in mere seconds and you can see, well, that person's interested in the same things that I am, right? And a lot of people talk about content, Chris, right? Everybody talks about content is king. Content is king. Well,
Yeah.
brother, if content is king, then context is God. And I don't use his name lightly, right?
Right.
So if content is king and context is God, because I don't care how fabulous your content is. If it's out of contextual interest to me, I don't give a crap, right? It
Right.
really doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean I'm a mean person, and it doesn't mean your content's no good. And it doesn't, just I don't care, right?
Right.
And I'm on social networking anyway. I'm just here to meet some people and have some fun, see some pictures of my cousin's kids, right? Whatever. That's why I'm there. So I want to hear the news, whatever. Twitter is the number one source of news today. I
Yeah.
mean, that's their niche. Twitter is the number one place to go get the news. And the amazing thing is, because it's the people's media, you get the actual media's report on what's happening, and then you get the report of everybody that's there, right? Right? What's
Yep.
really happening, right? And what we've seen things like, we've seen governments toppled because of that, right? The
Yeah.
PR machines, traditional media, they cannot keep up. What we put in the article says this is happening. Well, 100 people are there, and they're saying, well, this is happening, and here's a
Yeah.
video of it. Right? That's not true. That guy at the podium, there's only 6 people standing in front of him, and the camera's really stealthy behind one of their heads, so it looks like there's a big crowd. And there's some guy in the wings with a video camera going, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
The jig is up, right?
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
if you understand context, right, and you understand the context of what you're doing, then there's all kinds of groups, associations, and connections in social media, right? As soon as you're in past the profile, then there's groups and pages and associations of all types, right? And lists of all types. And whatever you are, right? There's my green guy again. Whatever your big idea is, if you're listening in social media, you can find very quickly communities and groups of people that are interested in what you're interested in, and or interested in the problem that you solve with your business. And the most brilliant thing in the Twitter and hashtag and in the Twitter and Instagram and now Facebook a little bit world is hashtags. Hashtags are amazing. People don't understand them, but what it is I describe it as it's a context hyperlink. Right? It's a hyperlink to everyone in that community that's talking about a subject.
Yep.
And it's like, as a marketer, and oh my gosh, right? And as somebody who's just interested in something, right? You mean I can go to a place where there's 400 million people, and I can click a button and I can find everybody that's interested in dog food? Oh my gosh, right? I mean, this is mind, and people they don't get it, and they're like, oh, this is game changing, right? And it's all by hashtags, and so hashtags it's like a hyperlink. I mean, it takes you to a new place online, but what it does is it takes you to a context reference point, and if you're listening in the social network, you can find the context that your people are already talking about. And then all you have to do is go there, right? And
Right.
the amazing thing is all of the big companies, right? So let's talk to the self-employed people that are probably watching this, right? Let's be frank, right? Little companies, small self-employed people.
Right.
So the amazing thing is that all of these big 800-pound gorillas in your marketplace, they're all hiding behind a logo, and they're all on social network, posting a couple times a day some sort of coupon or some sort of crap, right? They're not engaging. They have no personality. So what you have an incredible opportunity is to be funnier, more helpful, more interesting, more engaging, and have better energy than a big freaking corporate logo. And they have a compliance team that has to approve everything. I mean, their stuff it's just boring, right? The
Yeah.
only reason you're following Whole Foods on Twitter is so you get the freaking coupons, right? That's it.
Yes.
It's the only thing. It's the only reason they don't engage with you. They're not interesting. They're not connecting with you.
Yep.
Meanwhile, by the way, and I work a little bit in consulting at the enterprise level, and those people are all sitting around boardrooms pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to play in the social space because they want to really bad, but they just
Well,
don't fit.
yeah, there's no fit. And the interesting part, Sean, is the fact that sometimes when they do, they have the debacle because they don't get the right person in, and then all
Yeah,
of a sudden, somebody
that's it.
loses their marbles and sends off a stupid tweet or something like that.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
um,
But
you know,
you can game those people, right? I mean, you can out interesting the 800-pound gorilla in your market. And here's the thing. This is not on the board. So this is, but people don't get it. So you write this down if you're in business, okay? Their best customers are listed there for you, right? All of their followers it's an open source list, right? All of the data on social media, it's open source, right? So if you've got a little natural, I said Whole Foods. Let's say I've got a little natural health food store in a little town, right? And there's a Whole Foods, 15 miles away. You can literally go into search.twitter.com and you can find everybody who follows Whole Foods that lives within 15 miles of your place. And there's a freaking list of them. It's their best customers in your community, and there's a list of them. And all you have to do now is be more engaging, funnier, interesting, more conversational, which is so easy for you because you're an actual human person who's actually interested in this stuff and not a big giant corporate entity. It's a complete freaking game changer for a self-employed person or a small business, and it all is driven by hashtags and online communities.
and a lot of it has to do, I think, with changing your mindset. I mean, there's a lot of people who want to run multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies who, if we're talking Whole Foods, who want to open 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grocery stores, and that's great. You
You
can, you can do that, and you can, how can I put
You don't
this?
have to lose that today, Chris. That's the
Well,
thing,
and that's
right?
yeah, and that was kind of what I was getting at, is the fact that, but I think sometimes people get overwhelmed and they say, okay, I can't compete with the big people. And what I believe people have to realize is you don't have to compete with the big people, whether it's one store or whether it's one, you've got to have enough business to sustain you and your lifestyle. And then if you
Mhm.
want to build it, you can continue to grow, but you actually have a leg up on larger companies because you started to be interactive, and that's what I was talking about mindset real quick, is the fact that I was coaching someone through this the other day, the fact of, they have different goals and they want to be, basically they have enough business in their area that they could never serve by themselves and they don't want to own a company. It's like, dude, fine, then you don't need to be big and you don't need to be talking about, traveling all over the world. It's like, if you want to run a company, then you start small and you build up. But anyway, I'm getting way off the track. So we all talked about how to connect to the right people. And Sean, I love the fact that you brought up everything has to be in context. I love the fact that you educated people about the whole Twitter hyperlink, because it's a gold mine. And the other thing I look at it as is it means you don't initially have to be in the groups where those people are, so you don't have to join 75 groups just to figure out if they're really talking about what you want. You can go to a hashtag, you can figure and say, okay, this person or these groups really have subjects that I want to hear about. Now that we're learning how to connect with the right people. We've got to move those people into real relationships that are going to grow our business. So how do we at least start to move? Because I know this has got to be an extremely complex topic. I mean, there's got to be boatloads of steps to doing to moving people into a relationship. How do
Yes
we
and no.
I'm being a
Yes and
little.
no. The other thing that's brilliant about what we just talked about, right, is that the really smart people on social are listening, and they're listening more than they're talking, and they're using search and filter functions. And what you can find with that is not only can I find the hashtag that my people are using to connect with each other, I can observe them talking about the problem that I solve.
Yeah.
And if I'm smart, I can denote the language that they use to describe the problem that I solve, and then I can just begin to use it, right? And it doesn't. It's an interesting thing even in hashtags. There's this funny one that we use for Social Cloud Suite. I use the hashtag growth hack. I've never said growth hack. I don't know really what a growth hack is. But if you're in the if you're in the high tech startup hot shot internet world, growth hack is cool, and you want to be a growth hacker. And when I use hashtag growth hack, guess what? I connect with lots of cool high tech internet startup-y people that are interested in my company. And it's not my word, right? And it doesn't matter, right? And it doesn't have to become my word. I just leverage their own language to connect the problem that I solve with that audience. And this is why the playing field is so leveled by this, right? This is why I call it the people's media. And so when I can show up, and let me just run you through that. So how do you connect them? You show up, and you show up as a cool dude, right? And again, most important, what others say about you, far more important than what you say about yourself. But that's a bigger discussion. We need to pass through Google due diligence quickly. We need to pass through the circle follow quickly, and we need to bring them home, right? We need to bring them home. So I've got a WordPress W here, right? Most of us have a WordPress website. I'm calling that our home. That's our site, right? That's our place. So it's much like if I met you at a party event. Chris, you seem kind of cool. You might even be, I got a bunch of guitars and stuff. I got a music studio in my house. You might think that's cool. I'm going to invite you over to my house for a barbecue, right? I'm going to invite you to a second level engagement, right? Because you seem cool. And if you think I'm cool and I think you're cool, then I'll invite you to my house. It's a second level engagement. And when I invite you to my house, then you get to see my guitars and stuff, right? You get to find out what I'm like. You get to find out about my hobbies, my passions, my family, and my work, and my journey, right? You were talking earlier about journey. You get to find out all about the real me in real depth, and we can build a relationship here. And this can happen in minutes, right? This isn't even days. Like if I invited you to a Sunday barbecue, that might be 5 days after the party, but this can happen in 5 minutes, right? Mere minutes.
Exactly.
And what I have the opportunity when I get them to my home is to funnel them down, and some of them are going to go away, right? At any point along this path, they're going to go away. That's cool. But the right ones are going to come through, and the right ones are going to come down. And if I don't whack them, right? So I invite you over to a Sunday barbecue. You come into my house. You want to see the cool guitars. You come into my house, and the dining room table is all set up, and all of the dining room table are samples of my new direct sales soap company that I just signed up for. And the regional rep is here in his suit and tie, and he's ready to pitch, baby. Then the jig is up, right? I'm a dinkweed. I just ruined the relationship. So don't do that when they come to your site either, right? Don't do the equivalent of that. Don't whack them over the head for having poked their nose into your home, right? Give them some easy offers, some opportunities to connect, some resources, like maybe some referrals, some friends, some things that they could use. Maybe offer them an assessment or a training or some. Offer them something easy of value. Don't make them buy something. Don't make them opt in. Don't make them download some free thing, right? Give them something easy to do, right? Give them a way to hold their hand up and say, you know what? You're cool. Your house looks pretty good. I want to be friends. I want to let them walk through this path. And when you walk through this path, you have the opportunity here for connectedness. And in your connectedness, You may demonstrate your competence. You may demonstrate that you are real. You may demonstrate that you care. You may demonstrate that you understand the problem, and you may demonstrate that you have something of value to offer. And when I do that, there's some of these people will become connected to the money bag, right? Some of them will become connected to the money bag. And that's what we all want in these business conversations. When do you make the sale, Shawn? Come on, right? Well, some of them will come all the way through, and they'll do some easy stuff, and they'll track along and they'll realize that we're both authentic and real and helpful, and we're competent. And this is why what we call, you remember KLT? Remember Zig Ziglar, KLT, Know Like Trust?
Yep.
The new accelerated KLT today, Chris: connected, charismatic, and valuable competence. You must be authentically connected. You've got to be charismatic. You cannot be a logo, right? Today, it won't work. And you must demonstrate real value, and you must give that real value on trust. You got to bet on the come and give them real value on trust up front, based on what you know and how you can help them solve the problem, right? And when you have that opportunity, and I'll close with this. I'm an advisor to a company called Smink. Smink works with social word of mouth, and what they have proven is that if you have actual fans, right, people that really like you and really use your products and services, and they're actual fans, and they're involved in Facebook, and we connect with them, and we empower them, and we build this relationship. Sphinx says that 25 empowered advocates can influence 1 million people on Facebook. 25 empowered advocates can influence 1 million people on Facebook. Everybody's complaining. I almost said a bad word. Everybody's complaining about having to pay to be seen on Facebook as a business, and it's real. 1 million impressions on Facebook will cost you about $3.3 million in promoted posts. But 25 empowered advocates can deliver that kind of impressions for you, and because it's coming from another person that they know, like, and trust, that impression is coming with an 8 times multiple in effectiveness versus a promoted post. When I'm losing my voice.
Sounds like a great return. Sounds like a great return on investment. And what I love about the paradigm that you've shifted here, and I really think when our viewers watch this, they'll really realize that this is a shift in paradigm. Because the old method was drive people to your website, make sure if they got there once, they were on some sort of list so that you could continue to market to them and continue to interact with them. And that was the only way. And it almost came from a scarcity mentality. Like if they came here once, they would never come back again. Now, in your paradigm, which I think is epic, it's the fact of continue to engage with them on social networks, continue to build that relationship, and then when they come to your home, you give them stuff. That's great. Maybe eventually they'll get on your list, but as long as you're continuing to interact with them in that party atmosphere of social media, they're not going to forget you. Which is the fear of old style. I'll say old style marketers. The fear was if we don't get them on our list right away, as soon as they get to our website, they're never going to come back because they're going to forget about us because there's so much noise. If you're giving good value, you're doing it the right way. You're not giving them a chance to quote unquote forget about you. I mean, is that kind of a fair thing to say?
Mm-hmm. And you have the ability to be connected with them. It's a necessity to be connected with them, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing. Sorry, I got a tickle in my throat. We are seeing right now an example, and I don't know when this will air, Chris, but we're seeing right now a celebrity personality that people think they know because they've been watching him on TV and social media, and people think they know him. And we watched him step from businessman into political arena and clean everybody's
Okay.
freaking clock.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it'll be
And
interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what continues to happen with that. Now, come on, we can get some SEO. I don't know if our viewers all will like Donald Trump, but that's okay. We can get some SEO out of that.
it's but let's be, who owns the Dallas Mavericks?
Mark Cuban. Yeah.
Who owns the Portland Trailblazers?
That one I don't know.
How about the Denver Nuggets? Chicago Bulls? Orlando Magic? Atlanta Hawks? Don't know, don't care.
Nope.
You know Mark Cuban though, don't you? Right? Hey, there is power there,
Yeah.
right? There was a moment on there was a moment on Shark Tank, and I love that show. There was a moment in the tank when all 5 sharks wanted the deal, right? And Cuban's sitting over on the right-hand side like he does, just letting them cook. And the 4 of them, and he's worth a multiplication of anybody else on the panel. They're all highly successful. Mark's worth about 100 times more than the rest of them. He's just letting them cook. And he's a legitimate celebrity. He's letting them cook, and they are, and he's an authentic celebrity as himself, right?
Yeah.
In his T-shirts and the whole deal. I mean, he puts pictures of himself and his kids on Instagram at Chuck E. Cheese, right? I mean, he's real. And those guys are all doing, they're all beginning to talk and argue about their competence, right? And all of us do this as business people. We start to argue about their competence. And you know, Damon says, well, I've got manufacturing and I've got this. And Lori says, well, I've got retail distribution and I've got this. And you know, and Robert's got, I've got all these IT solutions and I've got this. They begin to talk about their competence and their specific experience in business. Mark just let it go for a while, let it cook. He decided it was time. He actually smacked the chair to get frame control, grabbed the attention of the room,
Right.
and sat up tall. And he said, there's nobody that's not going to take my call. Right?
Yep. Exactly.
Nobody. Not going to take my, and he said, you want any of these guys? I can get these guys. Any competence you want, I can get any one of them, all of them. I don't care, right? Or we don't need them, right? Because there's nobody that's not going to take my call. So when you're connected, charismatic, and valuable, which you may do yourself via the people's media on your terms and in your audience, right? You don't have to become Mark Cuban. You're probably not going to become Mark Cuban. Let's be real. But you can be well known amongst the community of people that are interested in the problem that you can solve. You can become well known as a valuable source of information and solutions and news about that, right? It's easy. We made this little tool, Chris, this little Cloud Suite thing.
Yep.
What it does is it finds content to your context that you ask, and it posts it for you on a cadence which is appropriate for the network, because different networks need different cadence, and it posts it in a different style because the networks are differently. But there's 2 kinds of business people today. There's business people that are spending entirely too much freaking time on Facebook, and they really need to work more. And there's people that are busy doing what it is that they're doing, and they don't have time to be on Facebook. And they set up a page like 18 months ago, and they posted a few things for a few weeks, and when you go to their page, it looks like they're out of business, right? So, and that's bad, right? Because when you talk about SEO, there's SEO, big time, right? So when I do my Google due diligence, when I put in Chris Sprague, the first thing that's going to come up is your Facebook and your LinkedIn, right? This is SEO powerhouse, right?
Right.
So when I Google your business, I'm going to get your fan page before I'm going to get your website.
Right.
I don't care what you spend on SEO. And when I do that, and it looks like you went out of business 18 months ago, we're all done. My Google due diligence ends. So this was designed for self-employed people, professionals, practitioners, what have you, people like you and me, to have this thing go out and find. We tap right into the data pipe from Microsoft, and it finds news and content and commentary on your context, posts it on the network, hashtags it for you, and does it in an appropriate cadence for the network. And it does it all the time, right? Every day, Sunday afternoon when you want to be watching the Lions lose, and it's doing this for you. You don't have to worry about it. And it's just a fantastic freaking thing. It was designed for a specific brand. It was designed for the largest PR firm in the world. I'm an advisor to that process, and I got it tweaked for me because I was an advisor, so they made me one, and they tweaked it exactly the way I wanted it for a self-employed person, and they made it do exactly what I wanted it to do. I got to work with them for several weeks, and it worked so freaking well that I bought the thing, right? I bought the thing, and I turned it into a product, and put it inside of our company and launched it as socialcloudsuite.com, and it's grand to $7.77 a month. Okay, so it's 2 Starbucks a month, and it just takes care of this content thing for you, so you can do what you're doing, right? And that's all that it does. That's exactly what that's the whole point, and it does it really, really well.
Yeah, and it's epic. And I'll tell you, for our viewers at home, I've got the website up on the screen, socialcloudsuite.com. You definitely want to head over there today and sign up for the service. Take advantage of this. Take advantage of this epic service that Shawn has built out for you, because you should be doing what you do best, which is working in your business, whether it's a coach, an author. You know, if you're an author, you should be writing. If you're a coach, you should be coaching people. If you're a speaker, get on video camera and speak to people. You shouldn't have to be worried about where to get all this dang social media content, where to get all this stuff that you really need to post to be relevant to people every day, and where can you get the relevant things to post? Because the worst part, is posting, like you said, Shawn, posting irrelevant things to your masses, and then they're just gonna go away. Or the worst part is that you can't find something, so you actually go grab a link, and it turns out to be somebody who has a completely opposite viewpoint of you, and all of a sudden you've alienated all your good clients because, hey, you were in a rush. So don't make that mistake. Don't make the mistake that I and thousands of other people have made, which is grabbing content and going, oops. Go invest in Social Cloud Suite. Go over, take a look at it. You spent an hour now with Shawn. He's an epic guy. He's got a great hero's journey. If you're just tuning in right now, you got to go back and watch the hero's journey. Watch about a guy who came from corporate America, Caterpillar, went through, bought a fitness center, and then ended up being a consultant and a very successful one, and has his company as a piece of his consulting, social media, or socialcloudsuite.com, an epic social media interaction platform. I don't know what it's called, but that's what I think of it as. It's not necessarily interacting, but it fosters interaction because it grabs the stories, it puts the hashtags on, and it gets people to understand you and know you better, all without all the normal time, stress, frustration, and the problems that you normally have. So go over there, head over there today. As soon as you're done listening to me, watching this, go over there, head over there. Make sure you sign up for it. Take a look at it. You'll be glad you did. Shawn, before I let you go and before I roll us on out of here, is there any final words you have for our audience today?
Well, the thing the secret backside of that, right, is when you get this automation doing content for you, then you have a little time that you're accustomed to working on social media. So you can use that time to actually engage with people instead of trying to find content and worrying about how to post it and going over to this network and copying it and pasting it over there. Because that's happening for you, then you're able to use that time to engage with people and build relationships and build community with just a few minutes a day on social, because all of the content flow is being managed for you. And that's really, really fantastic. And that's where you can invite people, right? It's the equivalent of inviting people to the barbecue. When you engage with them personally, then you invite them to the barbecue. And when you invite them to the barbecue, sometimes they become clients. And that's why we do all this stuff, right?
Exactly. Hey, Shawn, thanks again for being an epic guest. Folks, head on over to socialcloudsuite.com. Sign up for Shawn's service. Sign up for the service today. and start getting back to doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you do best, which is interacting with people, building your business, and making your business and your life an epic success. Let Shawn's Software take care of all the grunt work of finding all those dang articles and hashtagging and doing all that stuff that just ends up taking up time and costs you time and money. Get back to doing what you're doing best. Let Social Cloud Suite take care of the rest. And until we meet again, make it an epic day.